Okay. All right. All right, so I'm in the house. Looks like, let me make some adjustments here. And who's here? Talk to a brother. All right. And I'm going to get these comments in real time. If I glance over on occasion, it's because to the right of me, I have my computer. So what's happening, folks? Let's see who's here. Say hello in the comments and I'll be able to see you. And let's get it on and popping. Today, this is what we're talking about. All about acoustics. Let me know if you hear me. You know? And yep, so it seems like everything is everything. So who's here? Who's here? Who's here to talk to a brother? We'll wait until the midnight hour. No, I ain't gonna wait till the midnight hour. Brother got other things to do. But I will hang out for a minute and see who's here. So if you're here, say hello in the comment or in the chat category. 3 concurrent viewers. All right, well, who's here? Here, make some comments, people. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. Okay, so talk to a brother. I will wait for a few more people. Before I get into my spiel for today, we're going to talk a little bit about acoustics. What little bit I know and what the experience has been like for me when I was building out my new space. I had consulted a few people, had a few surprises too, ironically, that I'll get into with you guys here. But in future videos, I'm going to do a series on acoustics because I think there's some things that we need to get straight in terms of our understanding. Okay, so who's here? Because I'm here and I want to chat. Oh, got a new setup here, so if you guys can give me some feedback on the audio. Looks like the audio is fine. I'm looking at the meters here. I have a meter in my monitor in the front. I have a an actual video monitor in front of me. The camera's in front of me. And I have a new switcher, the Blackmagic ATEM Mini. You know, I'm not sure. Mr. Smooth, what's up, man? How you doing? What's going on? How you been? DJ MVP, watching from Montreal. Hey, man, can you get a brother's bed ready? We about to go through some changes here in America. I need a bed, man. I need somewhere to lay my head because this situation with our president is a little out of control. And I know you know what we mean, right? But I'm glad to see you, man. I'm glad that you are here. We're going to jump into a topic that I don't see a lot of people addressing often enough on YouTube yet. I think if you have to make an investment in your studio, I think it's the single most important investment one could make in terms of like an upgrade. And you know, we reach for equipment, we reach for mics and things and preamps and things of that nature, but acoustics oftentimes falls by the wayside. Okay, so I'm going to give you an experience that I had many years ago. A couple of experiences that I had many years ago, and on a pro level, in both situations. One, I was in a mastering session for a client of mine, and another was for, I was sitting in, I had a friend of mine who worked at the Hit Factory Mastering, Carlton Batts, good friend of mine, great mastering engineer, multi-platinum award-winning Grammy, multi-platinum award-winning mastering engineer. He and Perp Powers had rooms at the Hit Factory, and he invited me to a session for Atlantic recording artist DeBella Morgan at the time. There were some things that I experienced there that were kind of eye-opening. Being a younger guy, and I think that it might have been my third. No, that's about probably my third mastering session. Two previous, which were my projects, but this was one that I was invited in on. So some stuff. Yeah, man. Aha, DJ, you say you here with I told you, brother, get that bed ready, man. Because I'm going to tell you, man, we got some stuff going on over here. Mr. Smooth, let's see. Doing good. Hey, listen, can y'all tell me how the audio is? Because I have a lav on today. It may not be the clearest of audio, but I'm trying out some new equipment. And earlier this week, it was funny. I thought I was on a private recording, trying out this equipment. Turn around, everybody was saying, "Hey, what's up, Warren? What's up?" I'm like, how's people seeing me online if I'm supposed to be offline? Turns out, didn't even realize I was online. I could have been sitting here in my drawers, picking my nose, and y'all would have got a show. So, yeah, man. But it's all good. Cool Drizzle. Yeah, man. What's good? Listen, a whole lot of stuff, man. It's been we're 10 months virtually into this whole COVID, 9 months, give or take. But it's caused a whole lot of reflection on my part. As a business, you have to take precautions because insurers now are asking clients to sign disclaimers and all this other stuff. So it's been a little bit of a challenge this year, and I'm just keeping it real with you all. It's been a challenge financially. It's been a challenge to keep your head above water, and along with challenges, you got to be able to shift with the tide. So there's some new things that I'm going to be getting involved in, and I'll probably be covering that in future videos, when I'm talking more about the business side of things, because there's a lot of people I know that are trying to get by the best way they can. But in these times, we have got to learn how to make adjustments. So those of you youngsters out there that just want to be doing still this mixing and mastering thing, I'm telling you, there's a huge shift going on. I'm going to talk about that in a future video as well. So let's keep it 100 here. Okay. Oh, the sound is good. Okay, cool. Because I'm using a lav. It's like an all-in-one system. It's the Blackmagic ATEM Mini, which allows you to use your actual cinema camera as a like a camera for live streaming. I've been wanting to up that into the game, so this is a step in that direction. He says a little hot. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I do see the level. Let me lower that. Thanks, man. I appreciate you give me a heads up on that. I'm turning it down right now. Let me see. How's that? Let me go down some more. Okay, let me go up some more. Down. How's that? Test check. Mic check. 1, 2, 2, 3. How's that? Yeah, because like I said, this is all new. It's real cool because it has built-in mic inputs as well as a video switcher, so I could actually switch between 4 cameras at any given time. So yeah, man. So let's get back to the chat. Larry Davis. Okay, cool. Thanks, man, Mr. Smooth. I appreciate that. Larry Davis, what's up in your world, man? Talk to me. And DJ MVP, you too, man. Let me know what's happening with you. What your studios are like. I'm gonna give you a little history on why I'm doing things. Well, you guys will get the first look. Why I decided to switch environments that I'm actually working in right now. There's a huge a situation that happened around that. But we'll talk about that in a second. Doing good, Mr. Masu. You say you maintain, just working, trying to maintain. Yeah, man. You know, we got a lot of stuff on our plate here in the States. You know, I got a bed waiting for me, a DJ MVP spot. So I don't know, man, if he got, you know, another bunker we could hang out in. But this is critical, man. This is some critical stuff. So yeah, man. So let's jump back. I'm gonna jump all the way back to, it was about 1994. Like I said, good friend of mine, Carlton Batts, mastering engineer at the Hit Factory, mentioned to me that he's about to master something. Keith Shockley was the producer of DeBella Morgan's single Free. As a matter of fact, I did a video on why it's important to mix with a subwoofer. Keith Shockley was the producer of her single Free. And as I'm sitting there in Carlton's suite, he had a beautiful suite at the Hit Factory. They really hooked their engineers up there, you know, and Carlton was in high demand, coming from Frankfurt Wayne Mastering as one of the top engineers for both R&B and dance here in New York. And yeah, we're sitting there and he's rolling the half-inch master. And as if anybody who's ever used half-inch tape, as he's rolling it, getting it queued up to feed it into the 1630 system, for the actual master that's going to the mastering lab, there's this click. So when you master the tape, if you got a click at any given point where the leader met the actual tape, that meant that the engineer did not demagnetize the razor blade before he made the cut. That would cause like a almost like a digital spike, if you will. It was imperceptible, obviously, to the person who actually engineered the final master, but it was extremely evident because Carlton had these huge, they were called Boxer custom speakers in his lab. Huge, big, giant, like 15-inch woofers, about 4 on each side, and then mid-range and tweeters as well. He picked it up, but he's like, hey, listen, this thing got to get to market. I have to send the master back for proof. Sure enough, I don't know where either Keith Shockley was when he heard it, but when he heard it, he was like, yo, what's that click that's happening right before the vocal kicks in? Carlton was like, I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't know, but yeah, you have an idea of why that happened. The point that I'm making is that sometimes the room, the acoustics, as well as the speakers that are in the room can have an effect on the entire mix from the bottom to the top. Apparently, the engineer missed it. You know, sometimes you hand stuff off to an engineer. I'm done for the night. You mix it, send the master over to Carlton in the morning. That's what probably happened. But in the interim, stuff can get missed if you don't have a properly tuned room with the proper speakers and the proper equipment to tell you when things are, you know, amiss, if you will, in certain frequency ranges. Okay? Needless to say, you know, that stuck with me throughout any other mastering session that I've attended, as well as, you know, studio sessions. Fast forward to about 2007. I was working with an artist. Her name is Dolores Bowman. The record is up on iTunes if you want to hear it. It was her only record that she ever put out. Gospel artist here in New York. And one of the original Marvelettes, you know, for those of a certain age who know who the Marvelettes are. Well, anyway, we're in the mastering session. And I was like, to be honest with you, on kind of like pins and needles. Why? Because in your place, sometimes everything sounds great, but it may not translate. Albeit, I had like about 3 sets of monitors that I checked it on, but what I primarily mixed on were a pair of Oratones and a sub. Okay? Why? I don't know. For some reason, that combination sounded great in my room. I loved it. I was able to hear the vocals very clear. I wasn't compensating on the high end because, if you have Oratones, they don't have a great high end. They'll give you a true mid-range, and the sub took care of the bass. Needless to say, when I got to the mastering house, which was Frankfurt Wayne here in New York, and Duncan Stanberry was the mastering engineer. He was like, "Oh wow, this sounds great." Like, what is it mixed on? I was like, Oratones. I use Oratones primarily and the sub, and it's like, wow. Had I not been in the environment that I was in with the speakers that I had, I don't honestly believe that I would have turned out the result that I did. Fast forward now, when I have decided that, it's time for me to renovate my place. It's been a minute. Let me do that again. Right before I said I was going to do the renovation here, I had a consultant. We talked, and he did an analysis. Okay? Because I've shifted more to acoustic music, jazz, more string ensemble stuff, vocal music, the sessions that I was doing was giving me, not the same vibe that I was having when I was doing more MIDI and electronic music. Okay? So he does the analysis, and the analysis will tell you something very important about your room, where all of your nodes, frequency nodes are. Turns out in my space, I had 191 nodes. My eyes was like $2 silver. Like, you serious? Because I didn't notice it. Because at the time, prior to doing acoustic music, I was doing mostly vocal music, arranging, for, a certain clientele. But now that I'm shifting, truth be told, I started noticing certain problems, and the bottom end started sounding flubby, Acoustic guitars didn't sound like, you could feel the pick of the string. Everything in the stereo field sounded and felt a little weird. But I say, ironically, on the records before, I didn't have this problem. Turns out I do the analysis. I'm seeing all the nodes are in the upper mids, lower mids, and the high end. The bottom end was a pain in the behind too, but the fact that I had a problem in the upper mids was what was creating the mud, which caused the stereo field to be jacked up. Okay? Keep that in mind. The lower mids, 350 and down. 350 is a problem area for most people, and down. I'm going to look at the comments real quick, and we'll reconvene on why I decided to make my control room my live room, and the live room a control room. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's look at some comments. So, DJ MVP, you don't have a big setup, just a little home studio. In the process of building it, found you when I was looking for patch bay. Okay, cool. And I have the focus right. Okay, excellent. And the twin track. Oh, I had a twin track. As a matter of fact, about in 2007, I got rid of it. But that was, that's a very, very flexible piece of equipment. Voice Master Pro, yes. MPA Pro, DBX. Okay, you got some stuff there, man. You got some stuff. And Mr. Sue, okay. Cool Juice 1, you should check out Mark's music plays on Okay, thanks, man. I will do that. If you can, put the link up in the comments, okay, and I'll check him out most definitely. You know, because I'm always on the lookout for new people, and then I'm finding, you know, now that most people are home, I'm finding a whole host of guys out there that got really, really good content. Okay, and so far, any before I get to part two of why I switched spaces, are any of you using foam in your studio? I just want to take a quick poll as to how many people use foam and think that foam is an effective acoustical material. It has its place, but we'll have a talk about that in a minute. Anybody? Okay, so let me jump forward. We'll jump forward. So, like I said, I decided to switch locations. Live room will be the control room will be the live room. But before I get to the reasoning, excuse me, I was with a friend of mine many years ago, David Merrill, and he was working with John Ashenbrenner, who at the time was a film composer for The Guiding Light. I don't know if any of you remember the soap opera The Guiding Light, but he was a composer for Guiding Light. And we were in his newly constructed penthouse studio in Midtown at the Daily Planet building. And well, it's Daily, not the Daily Planet like in Superman, but you know, there was a spot on 30th Street called, everybody called the Daily. It was a music building, but they called the Daily Planet. Newly constructed studio, penthouse, beautiful view into Upper Manhattan, and we're sitting in the control room talking. But John kept his setup where his keyboard was in front of the control room window so that he could communicate with vocalists or whomever. He had a very, traditional, composer setup. And I made a mistake and leaned on a very low note, which caused a standing wave. The control room window had not been vacuum sealed yet, and it was plate glass. When I tell you that bass wave almost shattered that glass, had David not grabbed the off or the kill switch on the console, a brother might have been working for John for free to pay for that plate glass, because a huge plate glass window. And he was like, oh man, it's a good thing, because that could have shattered the glass. But the vibration was so powerful and so strong. It was crazy. Okay, that was some time ago. Again, things that stuck with me all the way to now. Now, for those of you who SDM Films, you done stole my lead in. For those of you, and that everybody should look in the chat at what SDM Films just said. Very, very important. For those of you, because I'm going to lead into that. For those of you, I'm here a third time. Can you get on with the point already? For those of you who are using foam, generally attenuates only the upper frequencies. What you have to remember about the characteristics of waves, if you will. There are two types of waves that you're going to encounter when you're dealing with acoustics. Waves which are of a cyclical character. Bass waves are like that because they're so long. And array waves. Arrays like a straight line that hits something, hits, it'll bounce all over the place. When you're putting together your studio, the tendency is always to want to throw foam up on the wall without realizing that you're probably hurting the stereo field more than you're helping it, especially if it's at the mix position. The biggest problem that most people will encounter in their studio is the bottom end. And SCM Films just provided everybody, I was going to lead in with that, but he has already told all of you all, if you look carefully in the comments, the cheapest, most effective material you can use is Roxul's Safe and Sound rock wool. There is no single material you can buy, okay, that's going to give you more acoustical benefit and coverage than that. I was absolutely, crazed at the amount of money certain companies are asking for so-called bass traps. Bass waves are so big and so powerful that the only way to attenuate a bass wave is to deal with it with weight, with something as big as it to absorb it. Most people buying these triangular shaped so-called bass traps, they're a waste of money. An absolute waste of money. And they are asking upwards of $400 from some 8-pack, 4-pack. It does not work, and it does not give you the same benefit or effect that rock wool will give you. Let me expound on that point. I was working with Alan Glover. Again, you could check his music. We were working on the record, The Anticipated Dawn. That's on iTunes as well. And he's like, yo, come up. He lived in Poughkeepsie. Yo, I'm building a nice spot. Bought a beautiful house up there. Jazz musician. And beautiful setup. It's in a walkout basement, but the basement was a massive place. So I was there in the initial phases of the construction, right? Excuse me. And he goes to me, yo, check this out. He runs up the stairs and flushes it. He says, listen to the sewer line, because everything was open. Listen to the sewer line when I flush the toilet. He runs right upstairs. There was a little washroom. He flushes the toilet. I hear the water come down. I hear it go across the sewer line. He had a little swatch of this Roxul Safe and Sound wrapped around the pipe. When the water ran through the pipe, it literally, at that point where it started and ended, it disappeared. That run of water, the sound of it, absolutely attenuated and disappeared. I was like, what is this stuff? And that's when he told me that's what he was using in most of the place. It treats the frequencies, broadband, in such a way that's pleasing to the ear. So much so, I kept that in mind when I got the bad news of me having 191 nodes in this space. Okay, 191 nodes. You guys will see. I'm going to do a video about that next week. 191 nodes from the low frequencies to the highs, which I was shocked because I thought, when I had somebody do this place the last time, a pretty good job was done at certain frequencies. However, I got to remember that I had set this place up for a different set of circumstances, a different genre of music that I was working on at the time. And certain instruments and certain genres will expose certain things about the space that you're working in. You know what I mean? When I got to the new room, I said, okay, let's run an analysis here. We ran the analysis. I only had about maybe 79 nodes. Most of the nodes were evenly spaced out, which is perfect. You don't want a whole clump of nodes in the mids. You don't want a whole clump in the upper mids rather, and lower mids, or a whole clump in the high frequencies, because that means you're going to have to address certain areas in the room with certain types of acoustical treatment to attenuate and to keep the sound balanced. What my goal was for my next room was to make sure that I had tight bass and a balanced sound all the way across the frequency spectrum. Okay? Diet Production. Hey, I'm a big fan. Hey, my brother, I'm glad you are here. You're going to have to catch up on what we were talking about. We're talking about acoustics right now. And I'm about to get into how one should set up and what is the ideal distance for bass to behave itself in a room. So, in my new space, after I tore everything down, we measured out the room, which is going to be dual purpose. I'll be doing some recording in the control room that was once my live room, as well as in the live room. But the ideal distance that one should consider from your woofer to infinity should be about 17 feet. If you have less than 17 feet, left and right, diagonally, wherever the stereo field is set up, you might have huge problems that is going to require some serious addressing. Turns out I had 16 by 17. 20 by 17. So I just fell under the radar. I decided that the best bass trapping for me was going to be about a 2-foot wide trap in the corners. That was goal number one. The traps have to be at least 2 feet wide. Why? Because I knew I was going to push the speakers all the way up to the wall as though they were like soffit mounted. That was goal number one. Goal number two was to make sure that, again, the 2-foot wide trapping in the wall would take care of my subwoofer, because I like mixing with the sub, being able to bring it in or not. I wanted to be able to bump up, because on my Mackie, which wound up, that's another story I'll share in the future, which wound up becoming my mains now, I wanted to, again, bump up the bass. And on the Mackies, you have that little attenuator switch in the back of the monitors. I want to be able to bump that, because I was pushing it up to the wall, and because I was going to use those as my primary monitors, now I needed the additional bass that would provide, the +4 bump that was going to provide. Plus, now I had 2 feet of trapping behind it. I could attenuate the bass as I needed it. Bring the sub in, bring it out. But when I tell you, and this is the God's honest truth, after I had everything built out into the wall, all of the trapping, all of the frequency specific acoustic treatment, I have maybe only in outside studios, my own included, I have never until now experienced the clarity of the stereo field like I am having right now. So much so that I can confidently tell you all now, the best for me, your mileage may vary, the best monitor setup for the least amount of money is Oratones and a sub. And I can't see how that would not translate in any other environment and translate well, as long as your room is properly treated acoustically. That has happened, and now when I tell you I'm enjoying sitting between the monitors again and not, almost nail biting when I'm around the client, that's freedom for me. Now I don't have to, second guess, play it off and then second guess and go back, and all those days are gone. So, okay, we got some more people saying that here we are. Born 7 Supreme says, I use MLV and rock wool in between. Yep. Y'all better listen. It ain't just me saying it. Anybody here, y'all better listen. Because they're gassing people at certain people, retailers, trying to sell you that foam stuff that goes in the wall as base trapping. And for $50 in your big box store, rock wool cannot be beat. Can't be beat. Okay? I got stuff up on iTunes to prove it. You know, situations and circumstances, you know, that have proven that this stuff really works. Okay? Like I said, when Alan Glover was building his new room, he was like, this stuff is like crazy. And then when we finished the record, it was like, wow. You know, it does the frequency spectrum no harm. You know, I know that sounds cliche, if you will, but it's important that you're able to trust what you're hearing. You know, anywhere you go, whether you're in a you know, a big room like the Hit Factory, well, once was the Hit Factory, or Power Station, or if you're in your own space, you need to be confident that what you're hearing is going to translate well. You know, and having done and built in to the structure. Now, mind you, I have 2 panels of sheetrock, a panel of 2 panels of sheetrock, wall stud, insulation, and then rock wool, 3-inch bats, 16 inches on center, and then in the corners, 2 feet deep bass traps. That is tightening up the whole stereo field like I've never heard it in my space before. So let me give you some numbers. For 2 big bats of rock wool, that was $110, and I got, I think, 2 of them left over. I mean, not 2 of them, 1.5 left over. You know, I had some from before, but I, you know, have 1.5 left over. I take that back. 1 and maybe 1/3, because I had some left over, and I had some straight panels as well. It comes in rigid as well, which you can use for sky panels. This stuff is cheap, and cutting it into triangles gave me a lot of scraps, triangulated scraps, which allowed me to build up the perfect bass trap. You know, that's the $110. Some studs. You know, you don't have to necessarily build it into your corners. You can build a freestanding bass trap, which I'm going to cover in a future video. Because bass is the biggest pain in the behind that people just don't get right. And it's not that when you're mixing, it's deliberate. It's because you can't hear it the way you should hear it. Bass waves are more felt than heard. You know what I mean? Ipso, when I leaned on that low note at John's place and nearly blew the plate glass out from the standing wave. You know, bass waves are huge, huge, huge waves. So to be able to attenuate it, you know, and attenuate it properly is, you know, golden. So let's jump to some comments real quick. JDS Bleedo is in the hizzy. He purchased a vocal booth to go blankets. But they are good, but I know I can add some better acoustic treatment. Yes, listen, those work. But you guys, when you get off with me, go to Home Depot and check out that rock wool. It comes in rigid, as well as the rigid panels you could just cover with fabric. And if you want to make cheap sky panels, I think the rigid is like about $48 for six panels, I think. my point is that, you know, times have shifted, you know, where you used to have to pay so much money. And you know, I know quite a few people that have designed studios, and you pay these guys, they're designers. They're not architects. They're not engineers. They have a vision for your space. But an actual engineer or an acoustician will tell you what you need to know so that you have the best possible circumstance for your environment. To be able to go out and for $50, treat your room well, we're living in some great times as a musician, because you can have a great sounding room for next to nothing, you know. And if you take the time and listen to your room carefully, and if you're having problems with your mixes translating well, chances are it has a lot to do not with the monitors. We want to go out and buy new monitors, or we want to go out and buy, you know, maybe the Clarity M or some other pieces of equipment, and those have their place. But by and large, acoustics, for next to nothing, you can make all the difference in the world in your space. So, yeah. Robert Nicholas is here too. I'm going to get back to some other earlier Dire Productions as well. I want to, you know, just shout at you. Stefano. What's up, my brother? Good to see you, man. And Robert Nicholas says, I recently started using my Avatone mix cubes to mix with the real help translate. So here's another testimonial with Robert Nicholas. You know, the whole mix cube and being used in a well-treated environment. You know, for next to nothing, man. Wow. And I went on a certain retailer site and saw what a company was charging for some so-called foam, fancy little foam. People want to stick the foam all over the wall. And all foam will do is deaden your environment at the top end. That's not the best scenario. You know, because once you lose it, you're going to wind up having to add it back. The character of the space, you have to add it back artificially. That can be good in certain circumstances. That can be bad as well. You know, so you got to, you know, pretty much pick your poison. Born 7 Supreme. He's another Rockwell user. Okay. Milan Murder Inc. Okay, another Canadian. My brother's from Canada weighing in tonight. I was saying to my brother earlier, hang on a second, let me get the name. DJ MVP, that you're gonna have to get my bed ready, man. Because we got November 33rd coming up. And the Proud Boys is planning a reign of terror if their boy loses. So, you know, find me safe passage across the border. You know, might wind up becoming a Canadian, if you know what I mean. You know, it's crazy up in America, man. We got issues. You know, we're like a dysfunctional family. All right. STM Film says, which subs do I recommend? I can only recommend what I'm using. And probably you can go on eBay right now and find it for cheap. I'm using a Tannoy TS10 sub, which I have had for the last 17 years. It has served me well. I've paired them up originally with some Dyne Audio VM5As, which if you go back and look at a few other videos I've done in the past, the Dyne Audios have died a very nasty death in the middle of a project. So yeah, man, I would check out the Tannoy. But generally, truthfully, I would say if you're going to buy a sub and you're going to buy it new, buy it from, the only other company I would out now probably recommend would be Adam. Genelec, you know. I'm a little scared of Dyne Audio, having, you know, been bit by them once. I'm twice shy, you know, and if you have to repair it, That's a whole other issue. I have $1,000 worth of monitors sitting on the shelf because I don't want to spend the $450 just to do a diagnostic. That's crazy. That's what happens when you buy, from international companies. So I've been down that road more than once. But check out, like I said, if you're gonna buy a sub, Atom and Genelec. Those are the two I'm recommending. Diary Productions. I have one Avaton between two JBLs. I'm working on acoustic treatment right now, so this live stream is just in time. Excellent. I'm glad it's helping. What's gonna help you even more is after I do the video next week, because I'm gonna do a series on it. I think it warrants attention because, like I said, we always reach for the equipment first, and this is a case study in that here it is. I'm about to create a new space, and it's like, okay, let me do an analysis. Get the analysis done. It's like, you are in the worst mixing environment ever. I'm like, what? Wasn't expecting to hear that, So, ran an analysis on my live room. Was like, this is a better space. Why? Because it's larger. I mean, for what I'm doing, I'm doing smaller ensembles anyway. 4 people can fit into the control room. I could fit a chamber or string ensemble with no problem. I could do a drum session date. I could do acoustic singer-songwriter. And that is my primary business focus. I don't do hip hop, or R&B or gospel anymore. I can, and probably if I did and had to mix in my new space, it'll sound phenomenal. But I'm not doing much of that genre of music anymore. So, things change. But what about a live sub? Yeah. Okay, here's a story for you. A friend of mine tried that once. Again, that can be dangerous. Okay. In certain environments, because live subs are powerful. I have yet to see one that's not really, shaking the walls. It's not built for mixing music, You got to remember, a speaker cone has what's called dispersion, a measure of dispersion that's measured in degrees. So you have to keep an eye on that, because if a cone has and certain subs do, a wide dispersion of, like, maybe let's just say 30 to 35 degrees, a bass wave is a lot of energy in a room. And what happens is that bass waves, if they hit something and it attenuates it, it turns to heat. Now, you got to remember that we, in some respects, are being subjected to electromagnetic radiation. So in a small space, you got to be really, really careful. That magnet in that woofer is probably in the back of the cone is that big. Combined with a wide dispersion, who's absorbing all that energy? You are. If you're sitting up underneath it, call yourself, yo, this mix is pumping. Yeah, it's pumping. That energy is pumping right through your body. Another story. I had a friend of mine, bass player, as a matter of fact. Yeah, he got this new amp. I forgot about it. Sun at the time. Was it Sun? I think it was by the company Sun. If you're a guitarist or a bassist, you know the company. And he was practicing, and he was so into it. He was shedding the whole day. I mean, at like 100. The whole day, going. Next day I come over, yo, what's up? How you like the amp? He said, yo, man, I felt sick. And he said he felt nauseous and all this other stuff. Turns out, he shares that with the doctor. The doctor was like, your body absorbed that wave, and it shook your insides, to the point where I don't know how it, disrupted him internally, but he had an upset stomach for like a day or so, because he's in there, got it on 10, going for it, shedding for 8, hours, this is when we were kids, but you got to be very careful that your body is absorbing that energy. Whatever a bass wave hits, once it hits, it'll attenuate it, and that turns to heat. But because it went through you, that doesn't mean it stops. You just are an attenuator, So that's what a bass trap is. It's an attenuation mechanism. So think about it. When people in some studios, they have what's called diaphragmatic bass absorbers, an absorber which will have several layers before it hits the big layer of attenuation material, has several layers that the wave has to go through in order to fully attenuate that bass. You know what I mean? So that's why I built the corner traps. Why? Not that I'm going to crank a ton of bass. It's just that I want that energy to be absorbed and absorbed well, to the point where I know that I'm not going to have these issues when it comes to the mix sounding clear, regardless of whatever genre I'm working in. Now, I've listened to all sorts of material in the new room, and it all sounds great. From jazz to Jay-Z. Okay, it all sounds great. Why? As they say, the devil is in the details. The devil is truly in the details when you're trying to build a space that you know you're going to use for a specific purpose and you want it to work well. And for a lot of time, $100 and something in materials and effort, to get it to look decent. You're going to see it. I'm going to do some videos from there pretty soon. I think it was well worth it. Between the analysis that I had done, the advice I was given to switch spaces, and the sweat equity and the materials, I think that's the best couple of $100 I spent this COVID season. And I think I was suffering COVID fever as well, so I needed something to do, and that gave me something to do. Okay, so let's get back to some Bounce Stack says, or relax. See, you called the company, I ain't call them. Because brother be getting hate mail from people, man. When I be calling folk out, hate mail, like crazy. So I ain't call them out. Y'all call them on Orlex, yeah. Got to be concerned about spending that kind of money, man. He said, bet I seen a guy on the marketplace selling a lot of dumb cheap. Lot, what? Yeah. Nah, I mean, I think when you don't know, I don't fault anyone for not knowing. What I do fault folk, and this has happened on more than one, I do fault folk for wanting to charge folks a lot of money, but they're not taking the time to invest in themselves. As to why am I buying this? They get sold a bill of goods by someone. Oh yeah, this will work for that, without knowing why it's working. So that's why I think I'm going to do the series, is because I want to give you the why. You think because you put it on the walls is the only spot where you're having problems? Nope. The top, the bottom, you think that you should have carpet everywhere? No, you shouldn't. Why? Because you don't want the entire place to be just like an anechoic chamber, where there's no sound. You need to hear what you're mixing as though it's in a natural environment. What is more natural, you tell me, than wood, which is why you see it in the studios, and rock wool, which is made of wood. That's why it behaves with the frequencies the way it does, because it's organic. Our hearing is organic, right? We're not running around with hearing aids in our ears where you could raise the volume. And no, we hear things in a certain way. We perceive sound in a certain way. We know when we have something wrong in our inner ear. Certain things happen in certain environments in a certain way that affects you acoustically. If you don't believe what I'm saying, for those of you who, whenever this whole situation lifts with COVID, take the time and go to listen to either a live jazz ensemble unmiked, as or an acoustic ensemble like a chamber ensemble or a symphony. Go to those venues where the acoustics is what's going to give the effect of the symphony, the sound that it has. Because they're not mic'd, or they're minimally mic'd, or go to a church that has a arts program where they're doing, acoustic music, and hear it in that reverberant atmosphere. Our ears want to latch onto what's natural. You know what I mean? And what is more natural than when you go to some of these Catholic or Episcopalian churches and they had those huge beams and timbre beams that attenuate the sound in a particular way that cause a reverb time because of the marble that they use, because of the mahogany benches that you're sitting. All those things play into sound. So we have to keep these things in mind when we're building. Nothing is more natural than wood. I used to wonder why, I got pictures of me when I was a kid and said, why is there so much wood paneling everywhere? What are guitars made out of? What are violins made out of? What are acoustic guitars made out of? Bass guitars, drums. So, marry one thing with the other, it can't help but sound great. There's a group that was back in the 90s, I think it was Robert Plant. The group was the Power Station. And the record is Some Like It Hot and Some Sweat When the Heat Is On. That record was done at the Power Station in Midtown. Now, Berkeley owns the Power Station now. Look at the pictures of the Power Station. You're going to be like, what in God? Or a studio like The Bunker in Brooklyn. They built these places out with all what? Wood. They sound great. These are organic environments for you to record in. So we have to keep, when we're doing our studios, we have to keep the same things in mind. When I was once young, it's easy to just want to dive into just doing music without paying attention to detail. However, once people start putting money in your hand, it's your responsibility to pay attention to detail. And once you start earning a certain type of money, oh yeah. Once you get your first award or your first, big client, or your first really big job, it's your job to make sure that you pay attention to detail, Now, COVID has shifted my business so much so to the point where now all of these things are important to me, Not that they were less important before COVID, but they're now more important because now I'm working in a more remote situation with clients where every little detail is critical now, So just like with me, it's just like with you, So let's get back to some questions. Gadagor, let me know if I pronounce that right. Gadagor asks, did I build it myself? Yes. I was suffering COVID cabin fever. And it's wild because my wife is an educator, right? And in what was once the control room where I'm broadcasting from you right now, I don't know. One day I guess I was bored. A whole lot of work had dried up. And I was like, you know what? I said, I'm tired of, this space. I said, I need the additional room. So I went into my tool shed. I got out the Sawzall and I cut the wall down. It was like that. It was literally like that. Like I don't know if you remember Michael Douglas and Falling Down when he just bugged out and he went on like this killing spree. Well, that was me. One day I just, no plan at all, just cut a hole in the wall. It was like, okay, all right, there. Cut another piece, cut another. Next, I had one wall down, had another wall down. Had to reroute some electrical, Then I said, retarded, right? Then I said, let me contact a consultant. Well, that was after about a consultant for electrical, about where I'm going to route the new electrical. Because what I hadn't known is that when I had the guys build it before, they routed it through the middle wall. The brother almost shocked himself cutting. I was like, I need to talk to somebody about, how I'm going to route the electrical. Got with that guy, did that, and then after I had the analysis, after I gave the guy the dimensions, the 20 by 17, that's a better environment, cut the wall down, and I was like, I was going to wait for some people, but I was like, I couldn't wait anymore. Because I had to get back to work. I had to figure out a new business model and how can I work more effectively remotely, and which type of client is going to be willing to work with me in this circumstance. It was a whole lot of stuff, man. When you right before COVID hit, excuse me, I had about 2 or 3 contracts, that dried up. Money that was going to last me from February to about maybe February to about end of May, beginning of June, where I'd been like, okay, let me get back to work. All of it dried right up. There was no hope for it to come back. So what do you do in that circumstance? You better start thinking quick. You have emergency money, but guess what happens to emergency money? It evaporates. YouTube checks ain't that big for y'all who thinking, oh, when I get on YouTube, nope. A couple of $100 here and there. That fills in spaces, So you got to get to work. And, and in doing so, I re-educated myself on a few things, and that's, there's priceless. You can't put a price on that, because once you know, you can go to any professional and have a conversation with him and know that I'm not going to have this guy gas me because I know better. Why? How do you know better? I did it myself. When you put that rock wool up on the wall and you hear the difference, you're going to be like, oh, wow, it works that good. Let me frame out my wall with this stuff. So now I know it's a lot of math involved, a lot of geometry, because you're dealing with corners that might not be at 90 degrees. A lot of that. I'm going to cover all that in a series coming up. I started writing the script for it today because I want you guys to have the benefit of it. Because like I said, once you know, nobody can take that away from you. If you got a drill, you got a Craig pocket jig, you can build the best bass traps for yourself. You could get your room to sound like the Hit Factory, like some of these top studios, because they say the devil is in the details. It's not in the equipment. It's in the room. What is the room doing to your sound? That's what it's getting down to. So, about stacks. Are you or were you ever picky about some clients bringing them in with all your high-end equipment? No, because I dealt with although once upon a time I did deal with some shifty individuals that caused me to not. This was in the beginning of when hip hop was just starting out and starting to become a little bit more aggressive, if you will. I was picking up a certain clientele, and because I was a commercial / private environment, and the environment that I was in had my family in it as well, I had to say, no, I can't, deal. So that caused a shift. Now, lucky for me, I graduated from school with a degree in music, so I can arrange for all ensembles. I could write lead sheets. I could do, like I said, arrangements. I could produce in virtually any genre, because it's all just 12 tones on a piano. But I had the benefit of education so that I could arrange for jazz ensemble. I could do lead sheets for singer-songwriter. I can do arrangements for small pop bands and things of that nature. So I had those types of clients, and good paying clients, by the way, that have kept me, and I've been blessed to be busy throughout these many years. But I feel you on the whole, certain types of clients you want to bring through. But here's the flip side of that, though. Here's the flip side. And we're off on the acoustic thing for a second. A lot of youngsters that I meet, I don't know how young you are, but a lot of the kids that I'm always talking to, and this has happened recently. Like I told you guys last week, I had a live film, which is the visual and live recording medium that I had to do. And it was a good paying gig for me. So much so, and most of the youngsters know that when I hire them, I pay them a good wage for the day. But it's really surprising, and this has happened to me more than once with the kids, is that um, they only want to work on one thing. Most, you know. I know some that are multi-instrumentalists. They only want to, if they're doing gospel, they only want to work in gospel, you know. And I have no problem, no qualm with that. Most only want to make beats, you know. Some want to come and pick your brain so that they can, you know, take the benefit of your knowledge, which is good. You know, I'm not mad at you, but be there for just more than the education. Be there because I need you to be my eyes and ears in certain circumstances. So it comes in all forms, but by and large, most of the kids just want to do one type of music, and that's where you shortchange yourself as a musician. If you're trying to do this as a career, sometimes it is necessary for you to adapt, differentiate, or you won't make it. You're not going to make it. There's a handful of people that I've known in this business that can say, all of my income comes wholly and solely from music. Many cannot say that. So that's for somebody today. So let's get back to acoustics. What's your view on the experience with the diffusers? Diffusion is necessary, but you must know where to place it. That's the trick with diffusers. The purpose of it is to break up the stereo field or scatter the sound so that what comes back at your ears is something other than what might be a reflection or a second reflection of what came out initially. You know, knowing where to place it is important. Now, here's the thing. You can build it yourself. Okay? You can build it yourself. It's not expensive. It just takes a long time. You know, some people built the Skyline diffusers out of 2x2s, glued onto a wide piece of plywood. That thing will weigh a metric ton. I would suggest putting it up on something like casters and legs so that you could roll it around and find a sweet spot in your space. However, there are other types of diffusers that you can build. I think it's I'll find a company that you could buy kit, and mind you, diffusers to make them is not that expensive. They're not expensive. Maybe I'll include that in the series as well. They're not. All this stuff is not expensive, but you do need diffusion at least. If you don't have at least 17 feet in back of your mix position, or at the left and right diagonal points of the longest point of the room diagonally, then you're almost going to need some type of diffusion. You could absorb the initial reflections that are near your monitors. You could absorb that. You know, you can place diffusion next to it to break it up and scatter it even more. The best place is behind your mix position. It's not expensive, and you can make it yourself if you're handy and you just want to do it yourself. But to pay the amount of money that I'm seeing some companies charge for some of this stuff, you might want to think twice. You know, think twice and just say, listen, let me go to the big box store and just buy the materials and spend maybe a couple of weekends or an afternoon or a couple of days, or, you know, just making it yourself. You're going to learn something in the process, but you need diffusion. You need diffusion. Not every room needs diffusion. Like I said, if your mix position is shorter than 17 feet behind you, I mean, you could get away without having diffusion at 10 feet. 17 is ideal. Anything shorter than that, shorter than 17, you're almost going to need it, you know. But I would say build it, and, you know, out of maybe 2x2s, you know, that's cheap in Home Depot. You don't have to buy the oak 2x2s or they sell oak or poplar. You don't have to buy the expensive wood. As long as it's 2x2s that you could cut in varying stacks. I think there's a calculator if you want to get all deep about how to break up which frequencies are going to be broken up by whatever height. There's a pattern, and there are calculators that will aid you in determining how well it'll work. But by and large, you could build it yourself. But you almost will need it, at least maybe 3 feet behind the initial point where your monitors are located, and definitely behind your mix position. It can't hurt. I would use diffusion second to absorption. Okay, so I would absorb first with paneling on the walls in the initial mix position. That's like maybe 2 to 3 feet from where your monitors are located, and then diffusion followed by absorption, followed by an absorption cloud above your head, just to keep things tight. But as long as your base trapping is correct, you can entertain the thought of adding diffusion secondarily. Okay. Clip Wilson is in the hizzy. Born 7 Supreme. Yeah, GIK. That's a good company. If you guys get a chance, look them up. They're pretty reasonably priced in terms of acoustical materials that you could buy. But all of the stuff like Roxel Safe and Sound for $50, your problems are solved. $50 and go to Walmart and get some fabric. You can wrap that in fabric, stick that on the walls. Your problems are solved. Robert Nicholas is in the hizzy. He says, oh, Robert, you were the one that asked me I just picked up the question. Okay, he says he built a quadratic diffuser. Okay. See, you guys need to get in touch with someone like him who's done it. I've never built a quadratic diffuser. That's what I was talking about with the slats. That's requires some mathematics, but this is someone who did it. So he said, okay. He placed it on the back wall because his room is less than 70 feet. Okay, so you tell everyone in the comments what the experience has been like for you. Because, see, this is a case study for all of us as we're discussing about acoustics. Here's a case study where someone who has built one and can give you firsthand knowledge of how it's worked out for him. See, I'm lucky enough now that I've built this space that I have 17 feet behind me. The material, because I'm in an older structure that it is made out of, is like a built-in diffuser. I added absorption behind it. Now, I can go 14 feet deep from the mixed position. Well, not 14, like about 9 feet deep, and it still sounds perfect. It still sounds perfect, And like I said, I had nothing but time on my hands, so I figured, hey, why not spend this time re-educating yourself based on all these little individual experiences, from the circumstance with Carlton to Alan's situation to David and the standing wave, all that. What did these things have in common? How can it help me present tense? So here we are. Yes, Clip Wilson said he forgot Walmart. Yes, and cheap too. Just make sure. Here's something for you guys. You could take 1x2s with the fabric, or 1x3s, buy the paneled Roxel. Put 1x3, 1x3. I'll probably put some plans up on the community board as well. And cover that with fabric and those are furring strips and staple it down. To give it a cosmetic effect, staple the material over the actual Roxel panel, and that's effective. Just make sure that when you buy the material that is at least 50 inches wide. You want it about that wide so that you have as few seams as possible. And that at that width, you'll at least have somewhere, if you're putting the studs out like they do slats in a real studio, you at least have something within the stud to staple that material onto before you put the actual decorative, strip on the outside of it. Again, I'll cover all that in a future video. But yes, if you get the fabric from Walmart, it would probably be better. Oh, and here's something else you need to keep in mind when you're buying fabric. Make sure it's breathable. Don't go buying heavy duty fabric. Make sure it's an organic fabric like a poly cotton blend or a jersey cotton blend. It'll be a little flimsy, but it's easily, that type of material you can stretch easily and you can staple it easily, and it holds its form. If you stretch it, it doesn't look like, regular material will have that bunched up look when you pull it. So when you're using like a poly cotton or some other almost semi-organic, like a silk-like material, it'll still maintain its form even if you're stretching it. B. Smith says, greetings. What's up, brother? Good to see you here. We're talking about acoustics tonight. So, Clip Wilson says, I was planning on building my own acoustic panels and bass traps because these companies, yeah, they are overpriced. They are for what you're paying for Rockwell and Roxo Safer Sound acoustic material in Home Depot, $50 for that huge, big, giant thing. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. You're going to get a whole lot of bang for your buck, Let's jump back. Born 7 Supreme says, I recommend the handbook for sound engineers as a reference to help anyone out. Yes, sir. And one can find a PDF with the help of Google. Yes. Everybody's not a reader, but yes, I'm a reader. I enjoy reading a lot. If you are a reader, yeah, you should stock your library with a whole lot of reference books that pertain to the subject. After all, doctors do. They have desk references all the time. So, yes. Oh, B. Smith, are you saying you use Roxo as well? So we got a lot of people on here that know the deal. That's cool. That's cool. Let's jump back and see if I missed anybody. I just want to... Subs. Okay. Okay, Cool Drizzle. I don't know if he's still here. So any other questions? We have been at it for a minute. No, for longer than a minute. An hour and 18 minutes. Time flies. But it's cool hanging out with y'all though. Yes, sir. STM Films says he does hip hop. You almost certainly need a subwoofer for that, man. Most certainly need a subwoofer. Yes. Okay, B. Smith, he said, okay, not yet. That you're about to pick somebody. Yeah, that stuff, man. Please, for the money. Psst. It's the best kept secret out there. People running around buying the Owens Corning 703 panels. They're expensive, man. This stuff costs next to nothing. Plus, it's organic. It's just wood material, byproduct. It's not like that other stuff. You cut it, and if the dust gets into the air, the Owens 703 stuff, it can be harmful. So you gotta be careful when you're using it. Warren, this is Drew Smith. Have you ever mixed in a room with low ceilings? Exhibit A. Any recommendation for acoustics? You're looking at Exhibit A. Long story short, when I was having my place built, when I was having this house renovated, I was supposed to have at least 9 feet from the basement floor to the first floor. Okay, at least that's what the blueprint said. I'm looking at the blueprint. When I finally was about to do my first walkthrough, I get here. Now the contractor is long gone. He done got the check, okay, cashed it. I had never done a walkthrough, so I'm with the general contractor, not the guy who built it, the guy who hired the guy. and we're doing a walkthrough. So I get in the basement. I'm like, yo, what happened? This guy was so lazy because he didn't want to reroute the plumbing in a particular way that he decided to pour concrete to meet the sewer line that's going out to the street. I'm like, bro, are you serious? Do you realize that I needed that space? Because you didn't want to hang some strap sewer hangers from the joist. You decide to pour the difference in the concrete up to the sewer line. I nearly had a cow. But I've made it work. How? Okay. Yeah, owns equal carcinogens. Drew Smith, this is for you. At your mixed position, I don't know if you have let's say if you have 6 foot ceiling or 7 foot ceiling. If you can, get yourself some rock so safe and sound panels. Put those as clouds. See if you could fix them to the ceiling because you don't have the distance to hang them as a cloud. The best thing for you is to fix them to the ceilings. There's a way to do that. You're going to have to build a almost like a structure that can hold the panel that is the size of the panel so that you could screw it into either the joist via those anchors for drywall or anchor it down some kind of way. That's point number one. Point number two, you're certainly going to have a problem with bass in your environment. That's a guarantee. If you have your monitors, if you have corners that you're mixing in, if you're in a square environment, you have to break out that corner with bass trapping. I'm doing a series on how to build a mobile bass trap that's going to cost you next to nothing. It will be the best, maybe $75 you have ever spent in your life. That's going to fix your problems on so many levels. Because like I was saying earlier, if you missed the broadcast, the hugest problem that mastering engineers will tell you when they get a master from somebody is that the bass is terrible. And the bass isn't terrible because it was arbitrary. The bass is terrible because most rooms don't give you a good reference for the bass, mine included. Okay, like I was saying in the beginning, I had nodal problems in the upper mids, the lower mids and the upper mids, not so much the highs. The bottom end was not a problem, but the fact that I had a problem in the lower mids, that is a section of the frequency spectrum that crosses into the bottom end, which was causing this like smearing effect at the bottom at certain volumes. So when I was swapping rooms from my live room from my control room to going in the live room and vice versa, I decided to build 2-foot bass traps into the corners. Now these traps are 2 feet wide and about maybe 2 feet deep. Why? Because I wanted to be able to back my monitors up to the corner as though they are soffit mounted. Like when you go to certain studios, you see how they mount the speakers into the wall. I wanted that effect to happen. And plus, the ports of my speakers are rear firing, so all of the bass information gets fired right into there and attenuated well, which allows me to bring the sub in, bring the sub out, and at the same time have the best of both worlds. Because now I can listen to the purity of the bass coming from some near fields, and when I want to feel the bottom end on the whole, bring the sub in, which is now contained and controlled by the bass trapping in the wall. So you're going to have a problem, but your problems are easily solvable, not by buying that stuff that you see at certain retailers, but by taking some time, buying a few materials. If you don't have a saw and all the other necessary tools to cut wood, they will cut it for you at Home Depot. You know what I mean? So all you have to do is just screw it together, put it together, stuff it with the necessary material, put some casters on the bottom, roll it around in your environment, and listen. As you're moving it around, you'll find, it sounds best here. You know what I mean? But primarily, you're going to have a buildup of bass in your corners. when I first had my room built, I just took care of the corners behind me and minimally in front of me. But now that I have the distance so that the base is not a problem, I have 2 traps in the wall as well as a freestanding trap. I don't have that problem anymore. So your problems are solvable for little money. So don't despair. You can make your room sound better for virtually no money. Drew Smith. Okay. Okay, here's Robert Nicholas. He said the quadratic diffuser did stop the reflections he heard off the back wall, but it sounds less flat than when I had just had panels in. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, or did it attenuate the top end too much to your liking? Maybe you could answer that question for me. And Drew Smith says, would you have less issues if they were front ported? That's a good question. Not sure. And the reason why I'm not is because the last 3 sets of monitors that I have purchased were all rear ported bass reflex cabinets. So I just took advantage of that fact. If I'm going to build 2-foot traps, then I might as well back it all the way up to the wall as though it's a soffit mounted speaker and pump the boost switch on the back of the monitor to give me all the bass that it can give me. You know what I mean? Because here's the irony. You want to hear something? I had fully intended to use my JBL 308s in the room, okay, and maybe not use the sub. But the JBLs, like I said, the dispersion on it was way too wide for the room. They're good monitors, but the measure of dispersion on the horn of the tweeter was too wide. It just gave me too much width in the stereo field to the point where it was like, nah, it wasn't that great sounding. But the Mackeys worked out great. They worked out great. Combine that with the sub, and then to add icing on the cake, when I put the R tones up with the sub, sounded stellar. Because now I have a perfect control of the mid range and bottom end boost when I need it. So I'm a happy camper, to say the least. Drew Smith, thanks. Most definitely, man, and let me know and stay tuned for the you got 6 foot ceiling. Stay tuned for that, man, because all hope is not lost. I know how you feeling because I went through it. And here it is. I was supposed to have like 7+ foot of distance, and the guy gypped me because he was too lazy to pour concrete and suspend a sewer line. That's craziness, but stuff happens, as they say. Let's jump forward a bit. Mr. Smooth, yes, you would have less issues with front ports if they're definitely close to the wall. I would imagine so. But you know what? Now, with a front ported speaker, that port is tuned to a certain frequency, So I would hope that it wouldn't cause a issue, in terms of me finding out what that frequency is. And I would hope it wouldn't cause an issue for me in terms of mixing and misidentifying what frequency is for me on that part. I'm probably saying a lot, but I do know that the port is tuned to a certain frequency, so it would make sense for you to make sure that when you're building your trapping, that it's going to attenuate well that particular frequency, so that you don't have any standing wave issues, because now you're releasing that energy straight out into the room via that front port. That would be a concern for me, but that is definitely something. Thanks, Mr. Smooth, for saying that. Definitely something to consider. But Clip Wilson. Okay, we got him. So if there's any other questions, I'll take a few more and I'm going to let you guys go. But it's been good, you know. Like I said, you guys were guinea pigs for me today because I'm trying out some new equipment. Like I said, a new switcher. I'm using my a better camera to do my live streaming with. So here's one from Mr. He says, I have used front port 3 sets. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Well, again, case study right here, folks, about front ported speakers. Because I think the last front ported speakers I had, I'm about to date myself for real now, were some Toa 265 MEs. That's years, like 1990. What's my daughter? About 1992. About 1992. I'm gonna say 92. You know, because she was born in 87. So yeah, it's about 92. 92 when I used those. So yeah, front ported, you know, speakers have a different effect, you know, other than that puff of air you feel coming out if it's in your face too, you know. And yeah, man, it was a 92, man. That was a long time ago, bro. Long ago. Oh man, I already told you I'm about ready to retire. Brother ready to retire. I ain't going to old folks home, but I want to sit down and chill for a minute and watch the youngsters do their thing. But let's head around the clubhouse turn with final questions. On a Friday night, talking about acoustics and other stuff. Any other questions? I'll take a few more. Okay. With that in mind, it has been fun. Both me trying out the new equipment, working with a lab for the first time. That should be interesting. Yeah, this is really a scaled back situation compared to what I was using before with cameras and microphones and all this other stuff. Any of my own music on the net? Yeah, stuff that I've worked on with, Jesus God, so many people. Like I said, Alan Glover. I do a lot of jazz, group All for Seven, a lot of All for Seven, Alan Glover stuff. All of Alan Glover, tenor saxophonist, jazz saxophonist out of New York. All of his records from the Anticipated Dawn, Kings of Infinite Space. That's another record of his. April Peters, you know, associate producer with her on some of her projects. Who else? Dolores Bowman. Jesus. Quite a few folks. Barry D, of which I got nominated for a Dove for that one. I was the executive producer on that. So a lot of stuff with you. If you search for these people on iTunes, you'll find them. I spent most of my time in my career dedicated, although I know a whole lot of people at the top. Like I said, I'm not about name dropping, although I had to do it because somebody was trying to clown me, a company. And if y'all want to know, y'all go to a Father's Day video. But I don't like, name dropping. I've seen a lot of people build great companies here, and know quite a few folk that started out with small companies in hip hop that blew these labels up into big labels. But I've chosen to dedicate my career to all the people in the middle, because one thing I always believe, that there's a pyramid in music business. The top of the pyramid is very small. At the bottom, you have everybody who's trying to get to the top. But guess where everybody passes? Through the middle. So I'm the guy in the middle. You got to pass through me to get to the top. You know what I mean? I've seen great people like Jerry Hutchinson, great keyboardist here in New York. I've had a career of arranging and writing with him. Dana Reed, a great producer, and he's, took me under his wing and showed me a lot of. We were pretty much peers, but Dana is one of was he and Jerry are one of my production inspirations. Gerald Trotman, another great arranger, and he's a film composer out in California. Another great mentor of mine. I was educated by Steven Jablonski. A whole lot of people, have poured into me. But as a career choice, I chose to stay in the middle, man, because being at the top is very short-lived. You don't stay there forever. You got to pass back through the middle on your way down. And I've seen them come up and I've seen them go down. I've seen people be on the top and make great careers and translate that career into something else. You know what I mean? So you got to know what your career trajectory is. You got to be familiar with your strengths, your weaknesses, and what you love to do, because there's no need you doing something just for the money, because that's whack. Because money comes, money goes. They said, love what you do. If you love what you do for a living, you'll never have to work another day in your life. And that's been my story for the last 20 some odd years as an independent musician and a producer and arranger. I know what my strengths are. I don't mind writing lead sheets. I don't mind working with chamber ensembles. I don't mind, doing live audio for video. I don't mind doing these things because I'm trying to survive in this business. But if you are a one-dimensional person, you will not make it. I'm not trying to, to hate on anyone. I'm just telling you the reality of the business as a career, from a career perspective. And if you think I am lying, you ask a whole lot of jazz musicians how they are surviving amidst COVID, and they can't get out to gig now. They will tell you. If you were a musician and all you did was play, you are starving right now. But those musicians that I know that also are educators, they can pull from, the educational aspect of their existence. I'm just giving it to you all real. I'm gonna go off on a little tangent for a minute. I had a youngster this week, and I'm not shouting it, but he was young. He didn't pretty much know what he was talking about. Not politely. I was like, yeah, okay, I hear where you're coming from, but we don't agree, but let's agree to disagree. I've been doing this a long time. Your ego, this. And I'm like, wait, first of all, you don't know me. Second of all, it's not ego, it's experience. Listen, and as much as I've made quite a sum of money in this business, it's as much as right now I'm struggling to pull in $1 because of this stupid COVID thing. So let's just be 100 right here, okay? So I'm just giving, the young people the reality of not being one-dimensional. One of my mission statements saying, refuse to be one-dimensional and always jump with a second parachute, because you never know when the first one will fail. COVID, here it comes, right? Boom, boom, boom. 3 contracts, one day, lost them all. Thousands of dollars gone, just like that. You have an emergency fund in the bank, what do? Dries up, boom. What do you do next? You better start thinking quick. Next thing you know, you standing up in the Piggly Wiggly bagging groceries or something like that. And your pride is all hurt because you were too dumb to have a future forward-thinking plan. Sure, there's always the ideal thing you want to do in music. Don't get me wrong. I'm a drummer first. I enjoy playing. I love the tech side as well. I can play piano, okay? So I can arrange. I'm not stupid. You got to have many tools in the bag. Or one day you will be sitting around looking for work, and because you can only do one thing, you're stuck. I know a whole lot of people right now that's like, dang, man, I can't get out a gig right now. They're hurting. And I feel for them. So you can't be one-dimensional, man. You got to have more tools in the tool bag than you need. Like I said, my pockets are light. My pocket had that. I was on a pacemaker until last week. Got that contract. Few $1,000s. Called a couple of the youngsters. Give me a hand. Nah, I'm busy. It's not like I'm asking you to come out and get paid $5 an hour. A day wage with me is a few $100s. Plus you get the benefit of some education for something that's other than what you do. They didn't want to do it. Okay, thank you. More money for me. But can't be one dimensional, man. Okay, so let's just jump back to some questions real quick. Do I have any of my own music in the net? I just shared that. Dyer Productions said, I'm getting into hard. What do I recommend for a vocal chain? I don't know what type of music you do, because certain musics for certain things. A lot of people who do R&B and hip hop prefer girth and width to their vocal chain. So I'm saying knee first. If you're doing pop music, I'm saying something that's going to be more along the lines of an American sound, like an API. So it's everyone's mileage may vary. If you tell me what genre of music you're doing, then I can better direct you. But that's for the vocal chain. Drew Smith, yeah, man. Listen, brother, just trying to share what he know. I ain't come this far to be, ignorant. And it's said that you benefit, and that's what I want the young people to understand. Everybody has benefited from standing on someone's shoulders. Period. You got to know where you're going, or you will never ever, and you got to be clear with how you're going to get there, or you will never ever be able to get there. And like after that encounter this week, and this young man was very combative, very rude, and I'm like, I was that guy. I wasn't on that level that he was, but I remember getting a very good gig at a young age, and I was definitely full of myself and got smacked down and fired. Sobering experience. Very sobering. And this guy was nobody to sneeze at. That smacked me down, took me down a peg or two, and fired me from the band. That was all it took. So you can't be all, and he knew better. This guy was a very well-known recording artist. I got the gig by recommendation of someone else. But it's like, who is this guy? He's a clown. You don't show up to my rehearsals late. You're fired. Embarrassed. Bam. So you youngsters got to learn your place. I'm not saying that you're supposed to bow down to people. I don't expect nobody to bow down to me. Just like I can learn something from you, you can learn something from me. But if I'm telling you the benefit of an experience that I've had, just like I forgot who said that they built the quadratic diffuser. I have never built one. It's his responsibility to share his experience with how that worked out for him. I'm going to tap into the benefit of his wisdom and knowledge. But most youngsters don't want to do that. Everybody, I know it all. I got myself a laptop, Pro Tools. I am therefore a producer. You are not. I remember when I was in music school. A funny situation. The department head, he's my mentor. I love Dr. Stephen Jablonski to death. Love that man. He is a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. I could sit at his feet to this very day. Okay. And those people that you meet, they are gems. You cherish them while you have them, because you may not have them forever. But he said to me a long time ago, I said, Dr. J, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she bowed out the program, right? I can't. The juries, when you're in music school, you have juries. You got to perform for the faculty, and they tick you off. And if you're falling short in certain areas, they will not move you on to the next phase of classes, right? So she was like, hey, what's up? How you doing? I see you in the music library. Oh, I decided she could sing too. I decided to drop out the program, but her weakness was not her talent. Her weakness was on the technical side with music theory. So I said, Dr. J, I saw so-and-so and so-and-so. And she got out the program. And I asked her why, and she told me that you were too hard of a person. And he said something to me that stuck with me. He said, you know what? It's not that I'm a hard person. He just that people like to BS me, and I just want honesty. You know what I mean? Most people in this business that have a modicum of talent want to come along and BS people. Tell me how great I sound, but how great you sound is not relevant to a client. It's what can you do to get the job done, because once your hobby translates to work, the client is not interested with anything other than you being able to get the job done. Period. And that's where sometimes we get it twisted. He's like, I just demand people to be honest. He was like, if you're a songwriter, show me a song that you've written. Everybody got a laptop, want to be a producer. You got music on iTunes? Do you have an all music account? Show me something that you've done, but don't jump on people that you don't know. First of all, this guy didn't know me, and try and clown me and tell me, that I'm full of myself when I'm trying to tell you that I'm not dissing you. I'm just telling you what you're saying is wrong. And this is why it's wrong. I'm being polite and you trying to clown me. So youngsters got to get a hold of themselves, man. They got to get a hold of themselves, You got to understand that someone has borne the heat of the day so that you could have your day. You know what I mean? Had I never met Dr. Jablonski, I would not have the information that I have from a musicianship standpoint that I could now give over to the next person. You can't give out what you don't have. I don't care if you do have Pro Tools and the fastest laptop in the world. If you don't know what the 505 is in E flat is, how are you going to direct and write lead sheets and build on what you know as a producer? You need to add tools to the bag in order to survive. And COVID is a great educator right now. We are all hurting, myself included. So if I'm not thinking outside of the box, I might as well just pack up the tent right now, get off YouTube, and just retire and be done. Period. So for those of y'all who thinking, oh God, this is great. Every other YouTuber I see is making a whole lot of money doing YouTube. If YouTube goes away, half these people making beats on television, on YouTube, will have nothing other to do than to get up out of mommy's basement, go to the Piggly Wiggly and get a gig. I'm just being 100. Period. Because that's the reality. I ain't no different. My light bill got to be paid too. So when COVID hit, you think my pockets ain't got light? I got to pay my bills too. So it ain't all that it's cracked up to be. It's only a few people in the business of music that's making a huge part of their money still with music. Okay? So you do your research and tell me what you find. Youngsters. I know I sound like an old cranky old man, but some of the hate mail I be getting is like, what in the world are you talking about? You ain't even up out of your mama basement. You're gonna try and clown me. Boy, please, you better go and find something new to do. Drew Smith says, Warren, I'm a youngster and appreciate your challenge. Because Drew Smith, I appreciate you more, brother. Listen, I'm not all knowing. Because listen, Wavy Wayne is my man. I love that guy on YouTube. He just crossed the $100,000 Rubicon. Wavy, if you are watching, good for you, my brother. And I applaud that. The man's music is killing, and I love seeing people who know what they do, doing it confidently, doing it in a measure of humility. But nowadays, a lot of these cats just want to be gassed, told how great they are, and fill their head up or not. And don't get me wrong, there's a whole lot of people that I've come in contact with along the way that's the same way. You give them love, they won't reciprocate. But you can't build a career looking for people to gas you just like you gassing them, But most of these youngsters, like I said, they get themselves a laptop, a couple of plugins, and a mic. You can't tell them nothing. Please. You would think they on their way to platinum and everything is a hit. I had a client like that. Every time, oh, that's a hit. That's a hit. He used to always be bending in my ear. I'm trying to do something. He's in my ear talking. Move that. I'm like, dude, stay off my back. But some people just are like that. They want to be, that's great. That's great, right? They need that constant affirmation. That's neediness to the 10th power. That means you're insecure in what you do. And if I was that insecure, then I would constantly be trying to chase that little point at the top of the pyramid. I would always be trying to outdo all the people that I came up with, and wasn't my goal. I was clear on what my objectives were, you know. And I know, like I said, a whole lot of people in this business that have made great money. But money ain't everything, man. Let me tell you, it helps, but it's not everything, because it certainly does not buy you happiness. You know what I mean? So let's just keep it real, people. Oh, B. Smith says he, okay, we applaud my wisdom. Thanks for sharing the knowledge. It's a wonderful thing. I'm going to be giving away some gear to my granddaughter. Oh, cool. Since she shared she is interested in me. That's great, man. That's cool. That's cool, man. Each one teach one. You know, each one teach one. You know, if you got it, you're supposed to share it. You know, that's my goal here on YouTube. All the stuff that I've gone through in the years, it's like, you know, you got to share it with somebody, because somebody's going to get a nugget. You know, I had another mentor of mine that used to say, you eat the meat and you spit out the bones. Everything is not for everybody, you know, but whatever meat you're getting from this live stream or from a video that I've done based on something I've gone through, if it benefits you, then, you know, Drew Smith, I'm glad that you are here. And, you know, reach out, man. Reach out. I want to help you on your journey. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's most important to me. So, DJ MVP says, what would I recommend as other options? Now, you have to, DJ MVP, you have to tell me what you're talking about. Other options in terms of acoustical material, if we're back on that, or help a brother understand. Because I'm about to wrap it up. Or if I haven't been wrapped up already, just about on YouTube, you know, they only give you a little bit of time. So, but, or DJ MVP, if I have to wrap up, what you can do is go to the About tab on my channel and reach out to me through my email. You know what I mean? And we'll connect that way. But I want everyone to look out for this series that I'm about to do on acoustics and acoustical materials that you should use in your environment. Because this whole experience with me redoing the space was an eye-opener. First, after I had the analysis done. Second, after doing the demo and the renovation myself. Because I figured if I get hands-on, you know, at least I will know if I have to hire someone, I know what needs to be done. I could be a general contractor for my own, you know, space and circumstance going forward. So that's important. Robert Nicholas says, thanks, Ward, for the words of wisdom. This was great. Robert Nicholas, I appreciate you more, my brother. Honestly, believe that, okay? For being here. I realize it's a sacrifice for you to be here. And one thing I don't ever want to do for my community is trifle over your time, because your time is just as valuable as mine. You know, no more, no less. You know, so thank you for being here, Robert. I appreciate it, brother. Okay, so that in mind, I am going to say thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for stopping in. Please tell your friends to subscribe if they haven't already done so. And again, don't forget to say hello to the family for me. Take care.